am Amanda Reiman, and I've been working in cannabis and plant medicine for a little over 20 years. I'm what you might call a modern day ethnobotanist. So I have been studying the relationship between society, individuals, and cannabis and other plant medicines through this modern era, mostly in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have a PhD in social welfare, and I've always really been interested in how people interact with substances that were illegal and are becoming legal, and how those substances become integrated into our society. On a personal level, I have been a medical cannabis patient for also 20 years. And in the last year, I started microdosing psychedelics. I had used macro doses, for recreational purposes throughout my younger years and into my not so younger years. But I also am someone that has suffered anxiety my entire life. Now, other type A ladies out there, you may recognize that sometimes we embrace this anxiety because we get stuff done and we feel on top of everything. But there also comes a point when the anxiety can become burdensome, when the repetitive thoughts and other things that cause anxiety really start to get in the way. So I was never one for pharmaceutical drugs for all kinds of reasons that we could talk about in another session. So I decided to look to psilocybin, and I started on a regimen of 50 milligrams of psilocybin, 50 milligrams of lion's mane, and 50 milligrams of reishi every 3 days. And it has been unbelievable. I mean, and I love cannabis, and I am a huge believer in cannabis, and cannabis has kept me off of pain medication. Cannabis has kept me active, even though I have a chronic condition. But when I think about psychedelics, it gets me so excited, and I want to give them to everybody. Like, I want to give them to my parents who are super stressed out. I'm super excited about what this can do. And that's one of the reasons that I founded Personal Plants. So I'll tell you a little bit about Personal Plants, and then we'll dive into what I'm talking about today, which is plant medicine and the divine feminine. But I was in the branding session earlier, and there was a discussion about how not only should psychedelic branding be based in wellness, but that it also needs to appeal to a large variety of people. We can't assume that everybody wants, tie-dye and, crazy imagery with their psychedelics. A lot of folks are looking for functional psychedelic use. And so we have to make that packaging and branding really welcoming. So Personal Plants is an earth medicine subscription kit that's paired with an e-learning platform. So we make kits that help people grow and process their own plant medicines at home, with the goal being to make it more accessible, right? Really get it out there so that anybody feels comfortable using plant medicine. And because we believe that plant medicine is a wide universe that includes peyote, and it includes psilocybin, and it includes damiana and calendula and arnica, we include all of those plants in our kits. So somebody could be making our CBD and arnica infused bath salt, which you can win if you stay till the end of the day. And then they also may be making, growing their own psilocybin, or they might be growing cannabis or processing cannabis into a tincture. So the idea is to make it really easy. But I'll show you our branding, because I just got these boxes and I love them so much. We have our little plant people. You can see that, our little mushroom people and calendula lady and cannabis person. And, again, the idea is just to make it really accessible looking, something that you wouldn't feel like you have to hide. If somebody came over, it could be sitting on your counter and nobody would think differently. And so that's really the goal behind what I'm doing. I think it's really important that we don't hold this to ourselves. This is meant to be shared. This is meant to be put around to anyone that's interested and wanting to know about it. And so I really want to try to facilitate that. So that's what I'm doing. You can check out our website, which is mypersonalplants.com. We have recipes. We also have some amazing articles from some great women. So my team is all women. All of the guides are women. And so we have how-to articles, but we also have journey stories. And this was something that one of the other speakers was talking about, the young lady from Amsterdam, that it's important for us to hear stories. And it's really important for women to tell their stories to each other. So we have a journey series where women tell their psilocybin stories, their macro dose stories. And that's, being used as a way to facilitate community. And then finally, if you're on Clubhouse, we have a club, a Personal Plants Club. And every Thursday morning at 9 a.m., we do a community session where we share with each other about how we use plants. And we'll have a different topic topic every week. So it might be for hormone balance, it might be for pain or for sleep. But the idea is to create a community almost akin to the early medical cannabis dispensaries where people can share and get strength from each other. So I'm going to stop talking about that, and I'm going to talk about what I'm here to talk about today, which is plant medicine and the divine feminine. And, I was talking to Lisa about what should I talk about, and this came to me because I've been thinking a lot lately about the benefits of growing your own plants. And, we saw an increase in that during COVID. I'm going to be teaching at Merritt College in the Bay Area, a class on home cultivation. And my section is the therapeutic benefits of growing your own medicine. This is something that we saw in early medical cannabis dispensaries. And so I wanted to explore a bit about why that's beneficial and how the beneficial aspects of growing your own plants and then interacting with plants is connected to feminine energy. And it's very interesting when you take a look at it, all of the connections there. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. I'm hoping you can all see that. All right. So let's do it. So let's talk about plant medicine and the divine feminine. So we all may be familiar with this kind of dichotomy that you've seen between masculine and feminine energy. But of course, I think we have to start off by saying that we are all both masculine and feminine energies. So, we used to think a lot of things were dichotomies, that a lot of things were black and white, gender, sexuality. And of course, over time, we've learned that that's absolutely not true, that these concepts are socially constructed and they're actually a spectrum. And energy is a spectrum, just like gender and sexuality. So most people are a mix of masculine and feminine energy, regardless of their gender identity. I would say that I probably have some masculine energy. I think a lot of women in business have some masculine energy, and maybe that's why they're able to be so successful, is because it resonates with the men in power. And so when we talk about finding balance, it's not so much striving for the middle, right? You're not trying to get right in between masculine and feminine, but what you're trying to do is embrace the energetic concepts that best suit who you are. Right. So we're never asking anybody to change who they are. We're asking folks to embrace who they are, and really understanding your energy balance is part of that. So plants, whether we're growing them, eating them, touching them, can help draw out this feminine energy. So we're going to focus here on the right side of this chart, and we're going to talk about how these different concepts related to feminine energy are expressed through our relationship with plants. So let's start with intuitive feeling. So plants are very intuitive. They respond to their environment. They take up water as they need. They take up nutrients as they need. They give off odors that attract the right insects and repel other insects. And they don't have a complex thinking system or critical thinking system the way we do. So that a lot of that is based on intuition. And so when we start working with plants, it's an opportunity for us to join their rhythm of intuition and to really tap into that. So intuitive feeling guides our plant relationships because we are always seeking to give them what they need. And in order to do that, we have to tap into their intuitive rhythm. Now, when we talk about plants and senses, I mean, come on, where do we even begin with this? Plants stimulate our senses like nothing else can. And whether it's the visual of looking at different flowers or different trees or different plants and just how that excites our eyes, or the smell of terpenes in all kinds of arrays and combinations and just varied smells as you walk through a garden, the sounds of different types of leaves rustling in the wind and how their size and shape make different sounds depending. And then, of course, the feel of a plant. I think of lamb's ear, which is so soft and velvety, all the way to a cactus, which is very, very thorny. All of these are playing to our senses. And then creativity, I think, is a really important one. Plants are very creative species. They adapt to their environment. And they come up with new and exciting ways to interact with their surroundings. So think about ivy. And if you've ever seen ivy grow, it is really a phenomenon to behold. Ivy crawls and stretches, it reaches upward, it weaves a path as it grows. And if you try to put something in its way, it will find a way around that through its creativity. And I think that creativity is a part of feminine energy that is extremely unique and important and is oftentimes undervalued in our society. And I think, Samantha, you were the one that held up that sticker about the artist's job is to make the revolution exciting or to make it beautiful. And I think that that's absolutely true. And that has to do with creativity. Unfortunately, a lot of times, like I said, creativity is undervalued. But all we have to do to look at the value of creativity is see how plants adapt to their environment. And of course, you can't talk about plants without talking about being nurturing. So, plants are very delicate. So, of course, they need our care and attention. So, I mentioned before that during COVID, we saw a huge uptick, not only in bread baking, but in plant caretaking. And I'm not just talking about people having gardens outside, but people just buying house plants, wanting to take care of something, wanting to see something react to their care. And I think during COVID, with people being cut off from their usual social supports, there was a real desire to nurture. And sometimes when we feel like we are not in control of what's happening to us, we feel a desire to nurture. So we saw home gardens increase by 70% last year. And I think a lot of it really has to do with this deep desire that we have to nurture things and how well plants respond to that desire. Plants give us the gift of reciprocal nurturing. We nurture plants and they nurture us right back. And without question. And I think that that's something that's very rare to find in this world. Now, of course, we have to talk about what it's like to work with plants, because working with plants is not something passive. It's not something that you just sit and let happen to you, but it's a very, very active part of the experience. And in terms of feminine energy, experiencing is part of that taking in your environment and then making decisions about what's best to do. And so I think one of the great plants that's a parallel to experiencing is cannabis. Cannabis is a smart drug. Cannabis goes into your body and it looks around and it tries to figure out where the dysregulation is. And then it heads to that spot and it does its job and it doesn't disrupt the other processes. It experiences your body in order to understand how to best heal your body. And so we can take a lesson from that. And when we work with plants, it draws us into the experience. It lets us notice our environment and where the balance is and where the balance isn't. And it lets us respond to that imbalance in a mindful way. So, working with plants is very immersive. It's very full-bodied, and it's also very unpredictable, just like experiencing life. And I think for any of us that have grown plants, we've definitely had the experience of having a plant die or get infested and we don't know what's happening, or it doesn't turn out the way we want it to. But regardless of the outcome, it is a very valuable experience. Now, being. So, I think being and experience are really tied together. Because if you understand how to sit in the experience, that's when you get to tap into your inner being. So plants have absolutely mastered the state of just being, right? So plants are not worried about what happened yesterday. They're not worried about what will happen tomorrow. They are focused on thriving in the present. And they remind us to focus on thriving in the present. And I think, again, the talent of being able to sit in the present is undervalued. We're always thinking about the future and we're always trying to think about how to avoid mistakes of the past. So being able to slow down, which working with plants requires you to do, is a really, really great way just to tap into that sense of being. And then the collaborative relationship. So feminine energy is very collaborative. And I think we can definitely see evidence of that. The fact that we're all here talking to each other, wanting to connect, wanting to collaborate, wanting to support each other. When I did my launch for personal plants, I partnered with several other women-owned brands, including Tokeativity, to do a giveaway. And the work with them was wonderful. Everyone wanted to support each other. Nobody was trying to get an edge on anyone else. And we were all willing to do the work to elevate all of our work. And I think that that's something that is very unique to feminine energy. Another example I'll give you. So another part of my life is that I'm a research scientist, and I actually submitted a research grant to the National Institute on Drug Abuse a few months ago to develop a general population assessment of THC consumption for all kinds of reasons that we could talk about in another session. But the research team was 3 women, which is very, very rare. I mean, it's a little bit more common in the social sciences, but still to have 3 women as the research team is rare. So writing a grant, especially a federal grant, is a very laborious process. And we were doing it for several months, back and forth, multiple times a day. And we finally got it submitted. And we all sit around and said, that was the easiest, most stress-free grant submission process I have ever been through. And then we realized it was because we were all women. And we were all collaborating. We weren't competing with each other. And even though we were on the same team, a lot of times there's competition, and we just didn't have that. So how does that relate to plants being collaborative? Well, our relationship with plants is not built on a power structure. We are not the queens. The plant does not do our bidding. We do not control what happens to the plant. It is truly a collaboration between us and the plants we are working with, processing, or ingesting. We are partners. No one is more important than the other. Both us and the plants are teacher and student. And it's that exchange of energy that comes with collaboration that makes working with plants such a calming experience. A lot of times people wonder why it feels so calming to be working with plants. And it's because there's no competition. It's because you're just collaborating together and growing something and using something to make you feel better. And that is a very calming experience overall. Another part of feminine energy is expression. So being expressive is a big part of feminine energy. And again, something that's very undervalued, especially for women. I was recently watching something and they were, I know. Well, it was the Mia Farrow, Woody Allen special, but they were talking about the history of hysterical women. And women who were demonized for expressing themselves, who were demonized for showing emotion, who were demonized for speaking their mind. And in a lot of ways, feminine energy, the expressive piece of feminine energy, is something that as women, we have been socialized to suppress. Don't be too loud. Don't be too flashy. Don't be too colorful. Sit down and wait till someone asks you. I mean, these are all messages that we're getting, which is basically the opposite of be expressive, be yourself. But when you look at plants, they have no problem being expressive. The foliage, the flowers, the leaves, the buds, the branches, the stalks, plants are beautifully expressive, and they're expressive in every single kind of way. The plant world is full of visual variety. Plants do not hide their expressive nature. In fact, they rely on it for survival. And we do too when we speak our truth. So plants rely on their ability to attract beneficial insects, to repel predators, to be able to reach the sun, to be able to reach the earth. This is all part of the plant's expression, and they need to do it in order to survive. We need to be able to express ourselves the way we are authentically inside in order to survive as well. And then finally, receiving. So plants give us the chance to gratefully receive. And I think something else about the feminine energy of receiving is that a lot of times we're taught that you shouldn't receive something that you didn't earn or that doesn't belong to you. And that receiving something that doesn't belong to you or that you didn't earn is somehow selfish. And plants really give of themselves selflessly. So plants offer us the chance to gratefully receive, to receive beauty, to receive medicine, to receive food and their aroma. Plants teach us how to be comfortable with receiving their goodness. And they don't ask for anything in return. And, when I use plant medicines, I absolutely set intention and I absolutely thank the plant for the relationship that we're going to have. And I think that that is important, especially when you look at the mindlessness with which we consume these days, with which we consume, whether it be food or social media. So much of it is done without intention. And plants give us that opportunity to return to intention. So I did want to take a few minutes talking about plants and feminine health, because plants have long played a role in women's health. Women have been traditional healers, and they've also been traditionally more in tune with their bodies and with their environments when it comes to health. And that actually hasn't changed. When you look at the research, most medical decisions in a household are made by women. Most engagements with doctors, even on behalf of other members of the family, are made by women. And so I think it's important, if women are going to lead this plant medicine revolution, which we are, that we recognize our power in making health decisions for those who are close to us. So when we look at plants for women, one of the things I like to really talk about are the regulation of hormones. And, there's a lot of different plants that women can use for a lot of different purposes, for hair and skin, for sleep and anxiety. But again, in our society, the need for women to regulate their hormones in a safe and effective way is completely out the window, and nobody really gives a shit. So they give us drugs that have bad side effects. They give us drugs that are ineffective, or drugs that are going to make the insurance companies a lot of money. They don't talk about it. Nobody talks about what happens when you get older and how you feel and how things are different. And so I think that it's really important for us to do this for ourselves and to start talking about what herbs women should be using for issues related to being a woman. So on this slide, I have a couple different examples of herbs that can be used for different symptoms. So everything from women who are pregnant and or who have given birth and are breastfeeding, to women who are going through menopause, for women that are looking for regulation of their menstrual cycle, for cramps related to their menstrual cycle. Red raspberry is a really, really great one for cramps. I do red raspberry tea when I get cramps. And then maca is another really good one as well, for a mood boost. Maca is really great, especially when it's infused into chocolate. I love chocolate. So, take a look. There's a lot more information online about herbs that you can use. And, one of the goals behind Personal Plants is to have, a hormone balance kit where it comes with everything you need to make your own tincture or tonic to help with some of these issues. So, I really just want to remind everyone, and then in a few minutes, I'm going to say some closing remarks. I'm going to unshare, and then I'm going to see if anybody has any questions. But I wanted to pick up this visual. I found this online, and I just thought it was really stunning because, again, we go back to the feminine energy and how it's related to Earth, and how it's related to women, and how it's related to our connection, our deep-rooted connection. A part of the feminine energy enables us to put down roots. The fact that it's slow, that it's methodical, that it's creative, it really allows us to ground ourselves in our environments. And plants do the same thing. So I think there's an opportunity here for us to use that to our advantage when we talk about women's role in the plant medicine space. So I wanted to share my email, and I also wanted to share my website in case anybody wanted to check that out. And now I'm going to see if I can figure out how to stop sharing. I'm a genius. Technology genius right here. So for the last 10 minutes or so, I wanted to say a few things. Oh, hey, Leah. Now I can finally see the chat. I couldn't see it, anything but my presentation before. So I want to say a few words about what this means for our role in the plant medicine space. And this is something I've talked about before in Tokeativity and other places, but I think it's really important because we're all here today. We're all doing this, right? So we're all working in this space, whether it be cannabis or psychedelics or both. And this world is just going to get bigger. And it already is going the way of other industries, right? We're already seeing that. We're already seeing the masculine energy take over. And actually, you know what? Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get this back up here. Because I want to go back to that slide with the energies real quick. Oh, there it is. Okay. So when we look at these two columns and we think about the plant medicine and cannabis industries, right? We have to shift ourselves to the feminine. Right now, I will say that cannabis and plant medicine activism, okay? Cannabis and plant medicine activism is firmly rooted in the feminine, okay? Absolutely 100%. And even, men that I worked with in activism were firmly rooted in feminine energy. They had creativity. They were very nurturing. They were very collaborative and expressive. We used to do really off the wall stunts to show that cannabis prohibition was a sham. And that came from a very feminine energy place. The cannabis and psychedelics industry has a very masculine energy associated with it, right? So it's about decisive action, move fast and break things. What is your achievement? We have to control the market. Everything is competitive, and it's not, again, it doesn't have to be all feminine, but we need to find the balance. We need to find the balance. And as women, the more we can embrace our traits and parts of feminine energy, rather than feel like we have to exert the aspects of masculine energy in order to fit in. And I am totally guilty of this. I said before, I'm a bit masculine. And I think that sometimes I feel I have to put that hat on if I'm talking to male investors or if I'm talking to men in the field. And I think that's the wrong approach. I'm just coming up with this right now as we're talking about this. I think that's the wrong approach. I think the right approach is to lean into the feminine energy, to not sacrifice it. To make them come over to us, because our energies are what is going to make this industry wellness-based. It's what's going to make this industry equitable. It's what's going to make this industry society changing. And so I would encourage folks, and here I'm going to stop sharing again so that I can look at you while I say this. Okay. So what I would say is that lean into the feminine, embrace it. Whether you're wherever you are in the gender spectrum, it doesn't matter. Lean into the feminine and bring them along with us and demand that they do it too, because it's for the betterment of the world. I mean, we could sit back and we could just wait and see what happens, but I don't think that's a good idea. I think that we definitely need to lean into that. We need to think about which aspects of that are most internal to us, and then we need to use that as a strength. Because the plant, and this sounds really corny, but the plants want us to do that. The plants want us to be creative and expressive and nurturing and being and collaborative and intuitive. Like that's what the plants want of us as leaders that are bringing them to mainstream society. And I feel like it's really important that we honor that, even in light of a very masculine energy in the business. And if we can be successful at doing that, then I think we'll have a successful plant medicine industry. Then I think we'll see it normalized and we'll see the people that need the medicine getting it and not being stigmatized. We need to make the edges need to be softened. They can't be so sharp. I love the fact that there's so much discussion about Black women tripping. I love that so much. Psychedelics has traditionally been a very white activity. It was something that was only talked about in, like you said, tech bro circles or in, white lady hippie circles. And the fact is this is a medicine that is important for everyone. And so again, that's going to come from the feminine energy, the invitingness in for people that have traditionally been marginalized from plant medicine is going to come from the feminine energy. It's going to come from us leading into that, because that's where the welcoming is, right? That's where the collaboration is. So I would say that this is a great opportunity. This is the opportunity as women that we've been waiting for. This is the opportunity that our grandmothers and great-grandmothers and great-great-great-great-grandmothers wished for us in a time when they didn't have it. And so I hope that we can shepherd it successfully. And I do believe that the plant demands that we approach it with a feminine energy perspective. So I know that we have about 5 minutes left. I'm just going to see if there's any questions that folks have about what I've talked about or anything else that you might want to talk about. Yes, the energy, the industry is definitely 100% masculine energy. I mean, I know it's been a long time since we were at conferences, but I miss all of you, and I miss being able to see you and hang out with you. But conferences for cannabis had a very, very masculine energy. I don't know if y'all remember the era of the booth babes. I think that they've kind of cut that out, but there used to just be scantily clad women walking around trying to get you to come to the cannabis booth. It was quite frightening. And so maybe when we go back to conferences and those in-person things, we can make sure that there are opportunities to embrace the feminine energy, whether that's holding space, whether that's having a special event that isn't just women in the cannabis industry, but is more profound and is talking about things that are more important and changing than just the fact that we're all women and happen to be working in the cannabis industry. Like, I feel like there's a real opportunity here. So I'm excited to engage in it with all of you. And I mean, look what we're doing. What we're doing is amazing. And I keep going back to Sam with all of her psilocybin everywhere. And, that is just so exciting. Personal Plants is going to do a psilocybin grow kit for our full launch. So look for that. And I'm just like, let's all grow mushrooms. Let's all grow mushrooms. Let's all grow cannabis. Here in California, we have SB 519, which was introduced to decriminalize all psychedelic plants and LSD and MDMA. So that's very, very exciting. And I think that, again, the conversation is shifting towards the feminine. And I will say that the senator that's been really killing it in California lately and introducing a lot of these bills possesses a lot of feminine energy. And it shows. It shows in his mindfulness. All right. So let's see if there's any other questions. Oh, there you go, Jesse. Yes. Oh, postpartum. Huge. And again, totally underserved. It's like, oh, you had the baby. Good luck to you. So, again, part of bringing in that feminine is making sure that these things don't go unnoticed and that we do develop plant medicines for these issues and not just brush them to the side and have women just deal with them and then call them hysterical if they express themselves. Okay. All right. Well, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate Tokeativity inviting me to speak anytime. And I really appreciate all of you for doing all the work you're doing. I know that it is not easy, but we're changing the world with what we're doing. I mean, it's hard to see. Sometimes you only plant the seeds and you never get to see them grow. But we're seeing them. I mean, we're getting to reap what we sowed, which is so unique in the activist space. So just keep doing what you're doing. Keep being the leaders that you are. And I will look forward to seeing you all again soon. So, mwah.